So, Jeff Kaplan. Jeff Kaplan. So this dude is a pretty popular figure in the game development world. He worked on World of Warcraft, which is how many of you probably know him if you ever played that game, and now he's the top dog on Overwatch. He's really the go-to person if you've ever wanted to know anything about when a bug's gonna get fixed or what's coming out next. He's that go-to person. Anyways, yesterday he was in the Blizzard forums just answering up some questions, and I thought I'd go over what he answered. Some of the responses were pretty interesting, so let's get into it. The first question Jeff answered is, how many people work on Overwatch? And surprisingly, the team that started was only 40 people. This is very common in the game development world. You start out with more of a prototype team, mostly developers, and then as the game gets closer and closer to launch, or they also call it Gold Master, as the game gets closer to that point, then they grow, of course, with the marketing teams. They have a video team. They have all sorts of teams that now grow within the company. So originally they started out with around 40 employees, then on launch day, they have 75 people, and now currently they have 100 developers working on the project. So it's a pretty big endeavor, but if you put it in perspective to, say, like Call of Duty or League of Legends, which have about 500 plus developers, they look a little small. It'll be interesting to see within the next year if they'll get to that point of having around 500 or so developers. Finally, the last question that he answered was, how long does it take for something to go from being mentioned to then being implemented? And surprisingly, it takes a while for things like new maps or heroes. He mentions that it takes about a month or two to create and then release. However, if you look at something like the Season 2 competitive changes, those took 3 to 4 weeks. What's most interesting though is that they'll really prioritize something that's community driven, something that the community is really passionate about. And the final thing he mentions in his forum post is, interestingly enough, features like let me pick a skin before the match start might sound like a great idea, and on paper they are, but ultimately, some of these features take a really long time to implement, and the community needs to be really understanding of that fact. Hey, this might be a long feature to make, and it's not worth our time currently. So we as a community of Overwatch need to understand that and just kind of really support the developers in what they're doing. So anyways, that is all I have for you today. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you like the video if you haven't already. Check out the links in the description. If you're not following me on Twitter, if you're not following me on Instagram, you're missing out for real. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you tomorrow.